Welcome to Heart, where we break the silence, bridge the gaps, and bring real conversations about mental health to the forefront. I'm your host, Lee Yaffe, founder and director of The Long Short Road. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Heart to Heart. I'm so grateful that you're all here. Thank you for tuning in and for making the time to be here with me. Before we jump into my beautiful conversation with Miriam Klein, I want to take a moment to guide you all through a self-compassion exercise. Before we jump into the exercise, though, I just want to briefly share a thought with you about self-compassion. I think we all know, logically, we know that we should be kind and loving towards ourselves. And I also think and know from myself and from many other people that most of us are walking around in the world with a very judgmental, critical, hate-filled narrative in our minds about who we are and how we're not good enough. And for everyone, that manifests differently. But it's a common thread that I've seen. It's a through line that I've seen for many, many people, myself included. There's a very mean voice inside my head telling me that I am not good enough and that I am an awful piece of garbage a lot of the time. Let's just be real. And so practicing self-compassion for me personally has become this lifeline, this, life vest of helping me hold on to and connect with and become present to my whole self with all of my flaws and all of the things that I don't like about myself, learning to accept and love myself as I am and be kind to myself as I am so that I can actually make steps towards changing. Now, here's the thing. We cannot hate ourselves into healing. We can't. We can try, but it's not going to happen. Beating yourself up for what you're not doing enough of is not going to motivate your nervous system or your mind to pick up and start moving. What we need, I think, in order to heal, grow, evolve, and change and become the people we want to be, is to have this loving kindness towards ourselves, the same way that we would apply to anyone, right? And when I'm struggling with self-compassion and when I'm struggling with this internal, censor and judgy person that's in my head, I often think about, would I ever say these things that I'm thinking about myself to my child or my spouse or my friends or my colleagues? And the answer is no. And so I want to just plant the seed of practicing self-compassion here and now today. This is something that I want to encourage all of you to try on a regular basis, even for 1 minute a day, to be fully present and attentive towards yourself as you are, with love and compassion and awareness, not with judgment and criticism. So let's go ahead and do that now and get this practice going. So I want to invite you to close your eyes if you're able to. And you can go ahead and take the palms of both your hands and place them over your heart. Take a nice deep breath in and exhale out through your mouth. And again, inhale and exhale. See if you can come to this place of stillness in your body where you can just be with yourself. Your mind might start going in circles about stories of who you are and what you have to get done, and this is a waste of time. Those thoughts are okay. Just acknowledge them and then let them float on by the same way that clouds float in the sky. And now I want to invite you to envelop yourself in a hug. And hug yourself like you are someone who is worthy of love and belonging, as you are in this moment, because you are worthy of love and belonging as you are in this moment. and you can let go. See, that wasn't so bad. We can practice self-compassion, everyone. We can do it. And now, without further ado, here is my wonderful conversation with Miriam Klein. Enjoy. I'm so grateful to be joined by Miriam Klein today. Hi, Miriam.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? I'm so happy to have you.
Good.
So let me introduce you
Thank
to
you.
our audience. Miriam Klein, LCSW, works with women struggling with anxiety, depression, trauma, and chronic pain. Her passion is helping women become the most authentic version of themselves, which is often accomplished through healing the inner child and developing a stronger sense of self. She's trained in EMDR and IFS and used both modalities to help facilitate healing. Miriam, I'm really grateful and excited to have you here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm honored.
So my favorite question of the moment that I've been asking my guests,
Mhm.
because I feel like it gives everyone the opportunity to take their story where it needs to go, is what is your why?
Hmm.
What's your why for becoming a therapist? And also for focusing part of your practice and the work you do on chronic pain.
Yeah, I love that question. I feel like every therapist has a story.
Yes.
So actually a lot of my story involves like medical trauma in a way.
Wow.
When I was younger, I was undiagnosed with something called Cushing's disease. And I was sick for many years. And because it's like a hormonal thing, a lot of my symptoms were like mental health related. Um, so it took me some time to get diagnosed. And because of that, I really want to help others. And
Wow.
that's why I chose this field.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so can you tell me a little bit more about that? About like how old were you when you got diagnosed? What was the
Sure.
process like of like finding, as I think something that just resonated so deeply with me, and that's why I took a pause. I'm thinking, so this is something I've shared with you off camera that you know about me that I've struggled with chronic pain my whole life. And until I figured out what was going on, like it took probably until I was about 25 or 26, and I'm 30.
Wow.
So, yeah, what was that? Can you tell us a little bit more about that journey?
Sure. It was very long. I mean, I could tell like my voice is like shaking a little bit. Like it's still hard for me to talk about.
No.
So I started like having symptoms in ninth grade.
Okay.
And I wasn't diagnosed until I was 23 years old.
Oof.
So many years.
Wow.
And Cushing's disease is basically it's a pituitary tumor, a benign tumor, but it's an active tumor. So it secretes cortisol, which is the stress hormone in the body.
Right.
So basically, I was having cortisol like pumped through my blood for like all those years. And in the beginning, like it wasn't as intense as it was at the end. Like at the end, it was like insane, the symptoms that I was having. In the beginning, it was like, it's very hard to diagnose, especially because I was a teenager. So a lot of the stuff was like, okay, like acne, like, periods a little bit off. And then there was major, major anxiety, but like a lot of teenagers have anxiety. Towards the end, it was like scarier. It was affecting me cognitively. It's like losing like parts of my vision, getting into car accidents,
Wow.
super forgetful, gained like crazy stuff, gained
Wow.
like 50 pounds, like really insane. And thank God my sister-in-law, who's a PA, was actually the one that was able to diagnose me. And once we had like a name, I was able to go to the doctor. And from there, thank God, like I had surgery and everything went back to normal.
Wow. Wow.
Um,
The amount of years to go through. I just like I'm like holding myself and hearing you say this because wow.
yeah,
It's like knowing, a little bit about who you are today and the kind of work you do to support other women. Like I am just so
yeah,
wow. Thank you for sharing that.
of course.
And I
Yeah,
and I just want to, for anyone who's listening who right is in the process of like getting a diagnosis in whatever form, I just like want to put space out there for everyone who might be listening because this is unfortunately a a much more common experience than people realize that
Hmm.
you're experiencing symptoms, sometimes mild, sometimes extreme, for many, many years before there's a name for
Yeah,
what you're going through. So,
for sure. And especially with like Cushing's disease specifically, it's like pretty rare. So like doctors don't look for it.
wow.
But now there's ChatGPT, which is wonderful.
Right. Right now,
Um,
my husband and I were just saying the other day, you plug your symptoms into ChatGPT and
yeah,
you have
it's unbelievable.
unreal.
Because the truth is like if that existed then, I probably wouldn't have had to wait so long,
Wow.
you know, which is pretty amazing if you think about it. But I mean, that's why I'm also, really careful with clients of mine who, if somebody comes in, especially with like depression that's like resistant to medication, I'm always like careful to like send people to get like a physical because sometimes that means like there's something else going on, like a hormonal issue or, there's other things, not just like mental health. Like it could be something physical.
Right, because our mental health is also connected to other parts of our wellness.
For
And
sure.
when those parts are impacted, that's a very good point. And I appreciate I really that's something that I wish more therapists would have the awareness of doing because not always is it that, you know,
Hmm. Not so clear cut.
right, right. And I think people are nuanced, like not it nothing is ever clear cut for anyone.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so okay. Having had all of that experience and now being in a position where you're supporting women in many different areas, but I want to specifically focus on your chronic pain.
Mm.
I,
Yeah.
I feel like people who don't experience chronic pain don't like it's hard to understand what that means.
Hmm.
You're in it. What do you wish that the general public understood about people who are struggling with chronic pain?
Yeah. It's a really good question. So, post the Cushing's, thank God it went well and all that, but I did develop some chronic pain after, and that's why I decided to start this support group, especially for younger women, because I feel that, you know, obviously when you get older, things start to hurt and ache and whatever. But when you're younger, it's like you want to be living your life and, you're at the cusp of, you know, living, and then you have this pain that really holds you back, which I think makes it so difficult and challenging. And I think the hardest part is that other people don't get it,
Right.
right? Like if you don't experience it, it's like, well, why can't you just work? Or why can't like why do you keep canceling on us? And all the things. So I think for people to understand, like, or just even to give an analogy, right? Like imagine if like somebody stabbed you in the back, let's just say, and you're like, well, why can't you come out with us? Or why don't you work a 9 to 5?
Right.
Like that's really the analogy I would give to help people understand, like, chronic pain is often complex and it's not as simple as like taking a pill. It could be people have brain fog or, maybe medication has side effects that people don't appreciate and don't want to go there. Sometimes it's like a bunch of different symptoms that you know, don't have, some people don't are living without a diagnosis. And um, I guess what I want people to understand, like it's complex and it's not simple. And I think, especially from, doing the support group, it's like these women are like really trying their best to like live their best life. And that's really what everybody wants.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
yeah.
Definitely. Could you share a little bit more about the support group and what it looks
Sure.
like? What kind of support are the women getting? Because also, I mean, I think it's like this with support groups for mental health also, but I think with physical health, like it's, everyone's on their own journey and it's so unique. But I
Hmm.
think that having probably other people who get it, I'm speaking as someone who struggles with chronic pain. I'm like, there's very few people in my life who actually understand what that
Hmm.
like and what kind of mental hoops I have to jump through to make sure that I am in the best possible physical, position I could be in with, a migraine attached. Because
Hmm.
sometimes it just comes with me. right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the main purpose of the group is really so that other women really can support each other. And there's a lot of loneliness when it comes to chronic pain. It's like, people don't want to hear about it after a while. And so these women kind of gain support from one another, and just the fact that, maybe they're not all experiencing the same symptoms, but there's like an understanding of like, yeah, we get it. We get what it's like to not feel yourself every day, and we get what it's like for our spouses to not want to hear about it all the time, and etc. So like that's a big part of it. Another part of it is like, I try to teach them coping skills to help manage the pain. And the idea is, I can't, there are some programs like will tell you, you can get rid of your pain, which
Like
like I wish.
anyone who's
And
watching the video, I'm rolling my eyes right now.
yeah. So that's not the idea, because I think that also makes people feel very invalidated.
Sure.
Um,
Wrong with them.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the idea is to learn how to cope with it. And the truth is some of it is very much like cognitive,
Right.
right? If you're gonna like obsess about your pain, the pain's gonna be worse,
Right.
right? It's gonna feel bigger. And if you're gonna be anxious about your pain, your body's gonna get tight and it's gonna get worse.
Right.
So it's like this fine balance of like supporting and also like how can I live my best life with it
Right.
and not falling into like this despair. Um, yeah, that's the fine balance that I walk with chronic pain for my group and also for myself. Um,
So can I ask you how do you do that? Because I again like part of me is also like my brain is working and I'm thinking like what am I personally taking away from this to better, I'll say this for the viewers and for the listeners, but I shared this with you before we started recording that I'm in day 3 of a very intense migraine.
yeah.
And like case in point that like living with chronic pain and I am pushing through right now, you know,
Hmm.
to do this thing. So how do you, because you do run a therapy practice, you're seeing clients consistently, you're also a mom, you're also a wife, like you're running these support groups. How do you
Hmm.
take care of yourself?
That's a great question. Listen, I'm sometimes, I'm not perfect at it, and sometimes I do fall into like, oh my God, like how am I gonna, there's so many things to juggle. How do I keep doing this?
Yeah.
I think part of it is you need a really good support system, right? You need at least like 3 people you can call when you're like, oh my God, I can't take it. Thank God my husband's amazing, and he's always like the steady person I can call, and who kind of grounds me. Another thing that's helpful is something called somatic tracking. So
Okay.
it's kind of like following your pain, like noticing it without judging it.
Mm,
So a
mm.
lot of times people like feel their pain, and I'm curious like if you do this too, like, oh my God, like what's happening? I need this to stop.
Why
Like,
here again? Why are you showing up right now? Who do you think you are
right.
right now? Like, what is this?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's more just like being curious about it. Like, oh, like I'm feeling like this ache or however you would describe it in my head. Like, let me see like what happens. Like,
Right,
is it going to move? Is it going to get better? Is it going to get worse? Like taking the fear and judgment almost like allows your nervous system to relax, which can help the pain dissipate.
right, right. That's a very good point. It reminds me of that's an amazing exercise, and it reminds me of something that I run writing classes.
Hmm.
A few years ago in one of the sessions, one of the prompts that I gave out to the group, and I do it with everyone, was write a compassionate letter to a part of your body or, something that you in relationship to your body. A compassionate letter to specifically to a part that you're struggling with. And I
Hmm.
a compassionate letter to migraine.
Hmm.
That
Wow.
me of that exercise of, I can't remember a time in my life where this wasn't present for like this has been a forever thing. I'm 33 years old. I don't have memories of not having migraine. So,
Wow.
but like um it's a very interesting approach to look at it without that.
Hmm.
And I think that's probably, I don't know, is it in your experience, is that something that's challenging for you to
Hmm.
eat it without judgment and with compassion.
For sure. Because it's something that you don't like, right? It's if, if talking about like IFS and parts language, right?
I
It's
was gonna
like,
ask you, I'm so happy you're incorporating. Thank you, Miriam. I was hoping
yeah.
to get to IFS. Yay.
So it's like this, in IFS, they say there are no bad parts,
Right.
right? So it's like this part of you that's showing up and but you don't like it.
Right.
And so we want to in IFS, if that does come up of like this negative feeling towards it, we want to work for you to get to like this more compassionate, having more compassion for all of your parts.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
Which is
I
very hard to do with chronic pain. I get it.
know. And I think like, sometimes I'll speak to people and I'll share with them that idea of like, applying self-compassion or, parts work or the, different language terminology basically to all come to the same point of like, experiencing your wholeness and accepting your wholeness,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
And it sounds so simple in talking about it. In action, it can be very challenging.
Yeah.
And
So
I
challenging.
right? Like we're talking about something that requires like it's doable and it's manageable and I think everyone is able to cultivate that skill, but it is a skill that has to be learned. I don't think it's
Hmm.
that's necessary. Like even if we have it inherently within us, it's like a muscle. If you're not, exercising it, it's not,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think what comes up often, like with my clients, what I see a lot is like this feeling of like not good enough,
yeah.
right? And part of what I work with my clients on is like accepting your humanness, which I find like so many of us don't. And like everybody's walking around like something's wrong with me, like, but
Yes.
like we all struggle with the same things at the end of the day, and it's part of the human experience. And I think things like Instagram, unfortunately, it has its pros and cons, but
Yeah.
like it can make people seem like robots in a sense. Like everything's perfect and everybody's life is great.
Totally perfect. Everything is glossed over. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Um,
It's, it's making me think of something that I heard Brene Brown say once. She was speaking at like a Fortune 500 conference, and she kind of like peeked behind the curtain to see who was in the front row, and it was a lot of big important people, and she kept just repeating to herself, people, people, people. They're
mm,
people like me. They're all people like me. And I think we forget that. And
yeah.
I'm happy that you brought up that piece on social media because it is so funny. Like we met through Instagram.
Yeah.
Like so that's the power of social media. It can also like, you know, I fall for that trap too. Just
Hmm.
for anyone who's like
Same.
that's like Miriam, don't fall for that trap of comparing to other people on the internet. We totally do.
Yeah,
Um,
totally. Because
what
we're human.
yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I I appreciate that. We're all human and as Ram Dass says, we're all just walking each other home.
Hmm.
We're all
So
just
true.
on that journey. Um, so for anyone who is struggling right now with chronic pain or with mental health challenges and, finding it hard to navigate this
Mm,
human experience, do you have anything to share with them, a message of hope?
sure. I like to, kind of like part of, you asked me in the beginning, like, what's my why? And part of why I wanted to become a therapist was to be able to like hold that hope for people.
Mm,
Like, because throughout my journey, and there were parts of it where I know you deal with like, suicide and things like that. There were times where, I mean, thank God I never got to that point, but like I couldn't see myself, like life felt too hard that I was like, this is like literal hell. Like, I can't continue. And because I was able to make it out to the other side, like I really like to hold that hope for other people that like, like Yeshua Hashem Karabayan, like we don't know when, our Yeshua is gonna come, our salvation's gonna come, and but it can come and things can change, even if it feels so awful in the moment. And the reality is, though, that's part of life. And I think some people miss that point. Like, we're not supposed to be happy all the time. Like, that would be weird, right? Like, unfortunately, we're supposed to struggle.
yeah,
Um, and recognizing that humanness and that, like, this is being human is feeling a full range of emotion,
right,
you
right,
know?
right.
I guess that's the message that I
I
would like to leave people with.
I so appreciate that that's part of the perspective that you're providing, because I do often, when I speak with people who are really struggling, and obviously when you're really struggling now is like, you want to get through that intense, immense pain. But that piece that you just shared about, life is about feeling a full range of emotions. Healing doesn't
Hmm.
mean that we're going to be at like a good, happy, like totally zen place all the time. If
No.
Shem wanted that, he would have just given the world to angels. Like,
Hmm.
created us with a wide range of emotion. And it's healing is not about just feeling one, it's about feeling all of them in healthy ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. It's really, I don't know. I think going back to the social media thing, I do think that sometimes when people see like a snapshot of a piece of information about mental health on social media, they're like, "Oh, this should be so easy. This should be
Hmm.
I should be able to figure this out. Why can't I figure it out?" But
Right.
yeah, it's I
Not
I
that simple.
I really am so grateful to you, Miriam, for being here. Thank you for
Thanks for having me.
time to be here and to share this with all of us. How can people find you?
um, on Instagram. I'm kidding. At the Healing Trauma Therapist. All my information is there. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much
Thank
for being
you.
here. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Heart to Heart. If you or someone you love is struggling, please know there is hope and help is within reach. Since 2019, the Long Short Road has been walking alongside at-risk individuals, offering trauma-informed programs, a non-emergency hotline, and a community that fosters healing. No one has to go through this alone, and we are here for you. Discover how the Long Short Road is changing lives. Visit www.thelongshortroad.com or email us at info@thelongshortroad.com to learn more. You can be part of this mission. Sponsorship opportunities for Heart to Heart are available. Honor a loved one, support your community, and help us make mental wellness resources accessible to those who need them most. Until next time, remember, love and connection are the greatest healers. This is Lee Yaffe reminding you, hope is here, healing is possible, and you are never alone. Together, we're walking this long, short road to a brighter future.